New tonight, Texas is the leader in stopping organized financial crime, in part because of the work underway inside an old Tyler fire station. Since its opening 2 years ago, the Financial Crimes Intelligence Center has prevented more than $171 million in losses because of fraud, in addition to recovering close to 500 credit card skimmers, along with more than 5,500 fraudulent credit cards. Tonight, East Texas News Weekend's Blake Holland takes you inside the center to see how demand is forcing them to expand.
We are being tasked way beyond what we ever anticipated. Our expansion is beyond what we anticipated, and we're just trying to keep up with all of this crime.
Adam Colby is the man in charge of the Texas Financial Crimes Intelligence Center, located inside this old fire station in downtown Tyler. Step inside and you'll find an impressive operation, the first of its kind in the entire country, complete with high-tech equipment and an experienced staff working to protect you and your bank account.
Everything is just up for grabs right now. It's just amazing how much money is being stolen from Texas and the U.S. economy.
Upon seeing this operation, the first question you may have is why Tyler? Colby says it goes back almost a decade when Smith County was a hotbed for card skimming, specifically at gas stations.
We shut down gas pump skimming completely, knock on wood, but completely in Smith County. It's very rare that we see that anymore. And that was a combination of the work that we did as investigators in conjunction with the district attorney's office taking a zero-tolerance policy.
And it's the district attorney's office that now runs this center in partnership with the state. Recently, they added this digital forensics laboratory where experts can pull data from phones, computers, and skimming devices.
Gas pump skimming looks almost identical to ATM skimming. So they're inserting a device, typically either inserting a device into the throat of the card reader that will pick up everything on the magnetic stripe, or they're putting an overlay over the card reader that as it passes through that is picking up the magnetic stripe.
So who's doing this stuff? Colby says for the most part it's organized crime carried out by foreign nationals.
Multiple different countries, each one with a specialty, but we're clearly seeing that what's going on at the southern border is fueling a dramatic increase in these crimes.
When it comes to ATM and point-of-sale skimming, the center has found these crimes are most often carried out by Romanian nationals with a clear-cut hierarchy.
At the very top of it sits the person that they refer to as a godfather, and they're back in Romania, and they're sending their people here to commit these crimes.
And because of that, the center has connected with agencies across the country and around the world, and their caseload is growing.
Even though we have quadrupled the number of personnel we started with, or just about quadrupled, we could probably use another 40 or 50 people to try and keep up with everything that's coming in here. Unfortunately, we got to take some of the smaller cases and turn them away. We just don't have the bandwidth to keep up with everything that's coming in.
The center will soon expand not only by adding more workers, but by also turning the old fire truck bays into office space, an effort to remain at the forefront of the fight against financial crime. In Tyler, Blake Holland, East Texas News Weekend.
Since starting, the center has helped identify close to 600 financial crime suspects.